Hi, welcome back. This is D&D Creativity and I'm Stuart. Today we're going to be talking about being the Dungeon Master. Now, I'm not going to go through all the rules of the game. There's too many, and there's actually a lot of really good videos that talk all about the rules. And in fact, if you look below in the comments or in the doobly-doo if you're watching on YouTube, it's a collection of videos that I watched when I started playing Dungeons & Dragons. You'll notice that some of those videos are only about 4 or 5 years old. That's only as long as I've been playing. But they're fantastic. They explain the rules, they explain the game, and they do a really good job at it. So I'm not going to repeat that. What I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about what your role as a Dungeon Master will be, and we're going to go through a couple of maps that I've created. I've got a world map and a regional map, and a dungeon map. We're going to use them and create a small little adventure that you can use in your game, because you and your buds are going to play D&D at some point. And you are going to be the Dungeon Master. You are going to be the person that makes them laugh. You are going to be the person that allows them to have the opportunity to laugh and have a good time playing Dungeons & Dragons. Now, being the Dungeon Master seems a bit scary. Seems like a lot of responsibility. The players have their characters, and all they have to worry about is their character. You as the Dungeon Master, however, you are every other character in that world. You're the baker, the butcher, the blacksmith, the tanner, the barkeep. That's all you. You're also the monsters, the villains. You take control of every other thing in the world. The weather, the traps, the locked doors. That's all the stuff that you manage and control. Now that seems like a lot, but you'll be prepared. Don't worry. Firstly, you need to know some of the rules. Please check out the videos below and you get an idea of how the game works, okay? Essentially, you take a d20, a 20-sided dice, roll it. If it's a high roll, it's good. If it's a low roll, it's not so good. If it's in the middle, it's in the middle. But as the Dungeon Master, you decide whether something is a success or a fail. Think of the Dungeon Master as like a referee in the game. The players decide what they want to do and you tell them to roll the dice, and then depending on what they roll, you make a judgment on whether that's successful or how successful or if something goes wrong. You're also there to facilitate the fun in some ways. Not that you can't have fun yourself. Personally, I find being the Dungeon Master the most fun, but the players are the ones that need to be having fun as well. So make sure that your players are enjoying themselves. The first few times you play, they will enjoy themselves because you will be running the game. Remember that. Matt Colville has a number of videos in the playlist I've selected. He talks at length about being a Dungeon Master, and I really think you should check those videos out if you're interested in being a Dungeon Master. Which you probably are if you're watching this one. What I want to do next is show you a selection of maps. The idea of me showing you these maps is giving you an idea of what you can do with them. Some of them are detailed, some of them are quite open and broad for you to play with. Really, it's just something to get you started, and it's free, and you can find it in the links below. Once you've downloaded them, open them up, have a look. Then come back to the video. I'm going to go through each one and talk about what I would do with them and write up a really basic adventure and a way that you could insert it into the game. All right? So, let's get started. This is the first map we're going to look at. This is the dungeon map. This map is just for you, the Dungeon Master. You don't show this map to the players, okay? Because it reveals where everything is. I've made this really generic. You can reuse this if you want. You can change up what I've said here. I'm going to talk about how I would use this, but you can change it up however you want. You might think what I've done's boring, and that's perfectly fine. I've made this map in a generic way on purpose. So, first up, how would you start your game? You might just want to start them straight into the action and say to them, you've been tasked with finding an ancient journal that a wizard has been carrying for some time. It is said that they've entered this den, this cave, quite a while ago. You're standing outside the cave. It is dark outside. The cave looks ominous as you approach. You can see the passage of the cave leading deep into the mountain. What do you do? From there on in, you go about describing what the characters see. In this scenario, because it's a cave, I would describe the walls as being jagged, made of rock and stone. Nothing made of human hand until we get to a door. And you would describe those things as you go along. What we're going to do first is we're going to number some of these places. all right? Because I want to be able to identify what each of these places are when I'm playing it in the map. So this is going to be number 1, and I'm going to make this number 1 as well, okay? Because they're going to be the same sort of trap. This room will be room number 2. This little encounter will be number 3. This will be number 4. This will be number 5. And this will be number 6. Okay. Now I've gone ahead and created a little bit of a rundown of what we'll do. Alrighty, so I've gone ahead and made a super simple adventure that you can run if you would like to. It might give you some ideas of some things you can do in this with this little map. I've gone really simple. It's called the Quest for the Journal because that's what you're hunting. You're looking for a wizard that has a journal. So first up, a trap. If they step on this, this is a trap. When stepped on, the player is hit for 1d4 damage. How this trap works is up to you. But essentially they step on it and a dart shoots out. It might be from the sides, it might be from above or below. It could be that they step on a plate that sinks into the ground, or it could be that they trip a wire. That's up to you to do. But we want to give the players a chance to stop that from happening. And we do that with a perception check. Okay, so it's a difficulty 15. Actually, we're going to make that a little bit easier. We're going to make that a difficulty 12. So, as they're walking down the corridor, you ask them to do a perception check. You want to coach them into some of the things they can do when they're walking around in one of these dungeons or maps. So one of the players rolls a perception, they roll a 15, they spot the trap, then they can figure out how they're going to disarm it or jump over it. It's up to them. In room 2, we have 4 skeletons. They attack as soon as they see the adventurers. This is when we go into combat. You'll need to ask them to roll initiative, and that gives us the order in which they'll be attacking. Make sure you watch some of the videos in the playlist to learn all about those rules. Once the combat is over, they can search this room, and they're going to find a dusty old chest in the corner of the room, and inside that chest are 10 gold pieces and a large ruby that's worth 15 gold pieces. Adventurers want to find gold. It's part of why they're here. They want to be famous and they want to get rich. Well, some of them do. Sometimes they don't. But it is with gold pieces that they can buy more equipment or that they can trade for things when they get into town. Now, as the players walk through here, make sure you're describing what it looks like, what it sounds like. Is it quiet? Or perhaps it is quiet. And as they walk down this passage and turn the corner, they stop. They can see through the darkness a door, a man-made door. The first thing that looks like it was made by humankind or something that isn't a monster. But they can hear something scratching, something nibbling, coming from around the corner. And as they come around, they are confronted by 3 giant rats gnawing on the remains of you don't know what. As soon as the adventurers come around the corner, the giant rats attack. Now, when they come down here, they're going to come to a locked door. All right? This door is locked. My spelling is terrible. You must reread your work. This door is locked and can only be unlocked by the key in room 5. Okay? Which is over here, and we'll come to that later. Or by successfully picking the lock using thieves' tools with a DC, meaning difficulty, 15. Now, your rogue characters, if you have any, will have thieves' tools, and they would have been looking at their character sheet, and they'll see thieves' tools there and think, what is this for? I want to use it. So just ask them, does anyone have thieves' tools? If they don't, they can't do it, they have to get the key. So they're at a dead end. So they're going to walk all the way back, and then they're going to get to this junction here. They can see a large opening down here through the darkness. This not so large. When the players step on this trap, the floor opens up beneath them, okay? And they fall through. But again, we want to give them a chance to avoid the trap. So it might not be that they see it, but when they step on it, you do something called a saving throw, which means they roll a d20 and they add their saving throw modifier. And if they're successful, they jump out of the way. They might only just be successful, and you might say that they fall forward into the other room. It's completely up to you. Now, I've just said they must succeed a dexterity saving throw. You can choose how difficult that is. It might be a 10, it might be a 15. Keep it keep it fluid. See how the players are going. They've had a few fights now. They might not have very, very many hit points. They might be feeling a little bit worse for wear. So maybe you just won't do that trap. It's completely up to you. The other stuff that's in here is a swarm of rats, tiny rats that come and attack and swarm over things. They've got some really cool rules that we'll look at in a moment. There is also the remains of an ancient adventurer with a quiver that has 5+1 magic arrows. So anyone that uses a bow and arrow can use these arrows, and they add an extra +1 when they roll the dice and when they do damage, but there is only 5 of them. You can say that when the arrow hits, the magic is gone, or they must go and collect them and reuse them, but they have to remember that they're collecting them. The other thing they find on the adventurer is the key that unlocks the door in room 4. Let's go back to room 4. So they unlock this door. Inside are 2 skeletons that attack as soon as the door is open. They also find a small vase in the corner of the room. Inside is a pouch containing 5 gold pieces and a potion of healing. Potions of healing are great. They're really expensive, and it's an awesome way to help bolster your players and help them last a bit longer. Now, if they're really struggling and 2 of them might be close to death, who knows? Maybe put a few extra magic potions in there. That's perfectly fine, because what they're going to do next is come into room 6. They're going to have to try and manage this trap once more. And in room 6, they're going to find that it has 3 zombies shambling around aimlessly. They attack when the adventurers enter the room. There is a medium-sized chest with 20 gold pieces and a scroll of Ice Knife. Really cool spell that shoots like an ice shard and explodes and hurts people around them. Laying on the floor is the remains of a wizard. They have not been dead long. They have a journal written in a language you cannot read. This is what you have come to find. Now, where you go from here is up to you. If you've started this adventure right at the front of this cave, excellent. You might end it there. But they might have some questions, like who gave us the quest? Why are we looking for this? Now that is up to you, but we'll look at some options for that in just a moment. What I wanted to show you first is that I have created some hyperlinks in here. And when you click on them, they will take us to D&D Beyond and show us the monster's stat block. Okay, so really handy. You can open them up really quickly. You can search for it in there as well. I just wanted to show you zombies for a moment. Undead Fortitude. If damage reduces the zombie to 0 hit points, you can make a Constitution saving throw. It drops to 1 hit point instead. So the zombies might be really tough because they keep getting back up because they're zombies. Makes for a little bit of a more interesting encounter. Your players have found the journal. Where do they go? Well, if you would like, you can go back to town. I've created a little town map of Lunderton. I just made that name up. It sounds a bit silly now, but whatever. That's the name of the town. I haven't named any of the places in this town. That's up to you. You might call this the tavern. You might call this the church. You might call this the marketplace. You might come up with your own name for this statue and who this person is. Here's the blacksmith. Who are all these other shops and houses? Who lives here? That's entirely up to you. All this is optional. Your players, if you do take them here, are going to want to explore. You plonk down this map in front of them and they're going to say, oh, what's this? It's up to you whether you make it up on the spot or you've already made a few notes about it. Personally, I'd probably make a few notes. Maybe what the building is and who's in there and what can they get out of it. It doesn't need to be really detailed. You can make it up as you go along. If you don't want to start this adventure by having the characters right at the front of the cave, you might start it in Lunderton. Okay, you might start it in the tavern. You might start it at the blacksmith. It's up to you how they get this adventure. The idea is you just want to get into the game because that's how this game evolves. Every time a character finds something, they are deciding what they're going to do with it. They'll have questions. They'll come up with their story on their own and it'll take on a life of its own. It won't just be you having to create everything. Have some fun with this map. Think about the people who live in here. Think about what happens in this town. And in fact, I've gone and done something else as well. I've made a whole little continent. Okay. Askington, another silly name that I got from a random name generator. If you look up fantasy name generator, it literally has millions and millions and millions of random names that you can search for. And Londerton's right in the middle. I've put it right in the middle because when you start to play and your players want to go on adventure, there's all these directions that they can go in. Okay, they can head into the woodlands or to the ranges or travel down the river or head to the ocean. It's completely up to them. They might want to go straight to the capital city or into the Orc Peninsula. It's entirely up to them. And that's what you want this to be. You want this to be an adventure for them. One more thing on this map. This map is called a hex crawl. It's like old school. It's how the maps used to be made in the 70s and 80s. It's not so common these days, but personally I think they're really cool. The idea is that each little hexagon counts for 1 day's travel. Okay, so if they want to go from Londerton to Penkirk, they travel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days to get there. Now, each day that they stop, they have to set up camp, spend the night out in the wilderness, and the wilderness is where things are dangerous. You can have all sorts of random encounters in the wilderness. It might be a bear that you happen upon, or a pack of wolves, or perhaps some wandering monsters. It's entirely up to you how you want to do that. However, this is the map for the players. I've also created a DM's map. Now the DM's map is slightly different. It has some locations sort of plotted out. Now I haven't given any reference to what they mean, and that's entirely up to you. But we do have the monster face, so there's probably monsters here. We do have some ruins, so there's probably ruins here and here. There's a tower in the forest. A knight's head, could be an order of knights that live out in the forest. A mine, there is a secret civilization, perhaps the dwarves. Elves over here on the coast and elves just in Londerton. I've put like apples and wheat near some of these places to show what they do. These ones here look like caves. It really is just a way for you to explore. And that's what I think you should do. If you want to use this map, go for it. You can download them in the links below and start creating. What is this place? What are these places? I haven't come up with any ideas for who lives in them or what they do. That's completely up to you. The idea with this video is to introduce you to what DMing is all about. And it's okay if you get it wrong. Trust me, I've got it wrong a lot of the time, and that's fine. Let your players know. Talk to them. I'm sure they'll understand. I hope you've enjoyed this series. Please, please, please make sure you check out D&D Beyond. Make sure you're looking online for all sorts of things connected with the D&D. It really is the greatest game in the world. Enjoy yourselves, guys. Take care.